Okay, it is 6 o'clock. We're gonna call the meeting to order. Let the record show that all board members are in attendance. Please stand and join me to the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There are changes to the agenda.
Yes, we just have a few.
We are going to add a personnel section following community comments. And we'll be moving item 15 up to the personnel. The other addition is item 3 on consent agenda. Was added after it was published, so it's just the CSE, CPSE placements. And the last item is item 16 on consent agenda, accept resignation of science teacher.
Okay, any board members have any questions or comments on the agenda? Not can I go get a motion to approve it? I'll move it. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes. We have no community members in attendance, so we will skip D and move on to C. The new C.
The new
New
C. Well, I'm very excited about the new C because it represents our newest hire at Marion Elementary. So Chloe Jerzak is joining us next year as our newest elementary school teacher. She currently works with us as a long-term sub in 3rd grade. So she came to us from Rochester City Schools, and we were lucky enough to get her as a long-term sub first for Mr. Cowles in 3rd grade, and now for Mrs. Buckles in 3rd grade. And in the time that we've had Chloe working at Marion Elementary, we found her to be all the things we would love in a staff member. So she's dedicated to her students, she's an enthusiastic member of her grade level team. She is a great asset to the building and, you know, a positive energy that she shares with her fellow coworkers and most importantly her students. So I couldn't be more thrilled to be recommending her for a probationary position at Marion. She's here tonight.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve?
I'll move it.
Can I get a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes. Come up and shake everyone's hand.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Yes, please, get up here, get up here.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome aboard.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You know, Grandma, get the picture.
Oh, congratulations. Thank you.
Yay, Chloe!
Fun.
You're welcome
Have a
to stay.
great night, thank you. Thank you so much.
So, I don't think she really cares right now. So, move on to Board of Education reports. We have to select 3 people for BOCES Board of Education. Any board members have any opinions on those 3 people?
There's 3 vacancies and 3
I got
running, right? Yeah.
Yeah, cause I found that last time and everyone pointed that out to me.
Yeah,
There's 6 people.
There's
right?
6 people this
Oh.
time.
then they, that was different info than we had.
Where's the,
I see 3.
They're all
oh,
attached.
there it is.
There you are. Yeah,
No,
got it.
What did I look at then?
no, cause Michelle, you are
Well,
correct.
3 of them, the name is in front, and then the other 3, the name is at the end.
They formatted the
File.
files
Yeah.
differently.
Ah.
got me.
So I just saw
Trick
3 names.
Maybe that.
Okay,
I know no names, so I don't have
I don't know.
anything I can give anybody on any of them.
There's one from Helmac, one from Sodus. One from
Victor.
Manchester Shortsville. Those are smaller, localer schools to us.
Yeah, we do normally go with Wayne County if possible.
Seneca Falls, couple from Penny Ann.
Did you, when you were in SOTUS, did you know?
Phil was a board member while I was at SOTUS, like a SOTUS school board member. And I know I've seen him, I think at every 4-county meeting that we've been to, he's been there, so I think he's involved.
He's also seeking re-election, so he's currently on the board.
I would make that suggestion then
For seat one,
for Phil.
I'll second that. Are we doing them individually or all at once?
They need to be individual.
Okay,
Okay.
so all in favor,
Aye.
opposed, abstained, that motion passes, so Philip Rose is number 1.
See.
So as far as
He is a
around
member,
us,
as a
it
board
would be
member,
them, SOTUS,
all
Almac,
and
and
Yes.
Manchester, Shortsville.
from Swale. Yeah, so,
You do know one?
yeah, Dave Lannon. I thought it was really, Dave has been super involved at Elmac, and been a pretty good asset there from my understanding.
Is that your recommendation and nomination then?
I would say sure.
So
Yes, that I recommend, I nominate Dave Lannon.
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion passes.
How about Heather Bachman from Manchester? Also known as Red Jacket. Looks like she's on several 4-county.
Yeah,
Yeah, she's
it's been
engaged,
in
that's
her
for sure.
resume here.
She's taught at Newark.
So this Robin Johnson from Penn is, she served she was vice president and president of the 4-County School Board Association. She's been very engaged in 4 counties at least, by the looks of it. She was part of the
Someone have a third?
I gave 2 on.
I'll nominate Robin Johnson. I like her longevity and varied experience. What she's got listed here,
She's 11 years in.
yeah.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? That passes. Now we have to do the budget. Administrative budget. Do you have any questions or comments on the administrative budget?
I don't remember, is there anything else?
That's good. That's what it is.
I move it.
Can I get a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes. The third item we have on here is the open forum. The conversation that Dr. Lloyd and I had with Williamson is on the agenda for a little bit later. It was a good conversation, I think, but I it's gonna take some work to move forward with joint positions of any sort. We talked about, and I don't wanna get too far into it till we
Oh,
get
no, you're
to that section, but
Yeah, but again, I
we,
think, go ahead, Rob, I'm sorry.
we agree that it's a good thing to keep working on. But I think we can have a piece of the open forum be a combination of the merger, why we didn't move forward with that, but we are moving forward, which is collaboration with other districts. I don't know if there's any other topics that we want to put out there, or do we want to
I-
open it up for the community to submit questions like we
I
have in
think
the
that
past?
topic is going to fill the whole time, just from the questions that we've had coming in, even from our staff members. I think you're going to fill the entire,
I'm
and
okay
if it's
having
shorter,
it,
it's shorter, but
I'm okay having it a single topic, or do we want to open up for questions, like we have like pre-submitted questions like we have in the past?
oh, I assumed you meant questions on that topic.
No,
I
just
thought- yeah, I thought
overall,
we kinda-
like, we have had no community members here for months,
Right.
so I don't really know what the community members really are thinking right now.
Yeah, I think that could be a good opportunity, even if it doesn't populate this open forum, it could help guide the next.
Like,
But
we've had success in getting a variety of topics in the past by allowing community members to ask the questions.
Well, I guess I think as long as when we put it out, that we've prefaced it as, listen, that may not be a topic of discussion at this forum.
Yep.
But we're kind of looking for, we're
Things that are concerning to the
Right.
community,
Yeah.
like, they don't
things that may be good topics
show up
for-
anymore, so. I think we should have part of it be the merger.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Stuff.
Well, I think we need
that
to
type of
discuss
stuff.
it, cause people didn't understand why we were doing it. They felt like it just showed up, even though we said numerous times the state was telling us to.
I've gotten mixed results or mixed reactions from community members. Some of them have come back and said, I don't understand why Williamson didn't know what was going on, you guys kept us informed. Like, whether or not they understood exactly why we were moving forward, they weren't caught off guard,
Well, again,
a lot of them.
we can secure our position, we can,
Yep.
field questions or concerns or thoughts and.
Put it to bed.
I don't think it's going to be put to
I
bed
don't-
completely
yeah.
Like putting a
ever,
toddler
but
to
it's
People
gonna be,
People who felt they were not informed.
that was probably one of the best
Oh, that, yeah,
analogies.
It's gonna come out 7,000 times, but that's okay.
So then we'll lead in, I guess it's a win, right? We just need to pick a
Yeah,
date.
we just
when
have
do we
figure
want to
out a
do it?
date.
When is our next short meeting? Do it right after. Or skip the admin while they're at ours if they wanna be at it. Don't have them report. And move into it.
Do it election night.
We got,
I feel like
Perfect,
we have while
yes.
everyone's counting, everyone's.
Love that. That'll get everybody to come out to
Get
vote.
the auditor.
Remember, our meeting's up here now though.
Oh,
County
right,
side.
right.
yeah, cause May 6th is the budget hearing.
Right.
Or do we push it off into June?
To June. Which one is the retirement and recognition?
That's the last
The last
meeting,
one.
so that'll be
The
the
17th.
17th.
I don't think you'll get people at June. I think they are shutting down at that point mentally for the year.
So is that like a wait till September thing
I would do one. I just
in
wouldn't
the
do it.
summer?
Do we have to do it on a board meeting day?
I was just trying to make it easier for the
Yeah, well,
team if they wanted to be
Yeah,
there.
we're all
Committed
here.
Well, it's really these two that we make come.
I'm fine.
We haven't requested, and sometimes we've requested the rest of the admin team is not there.
Mm.
Just that they're not, it's our conversation with the community, not the admin team's conversation with the community.
What about the end of after the June 3rd meeting?
So about June 3rd, I might not be here.
Oh, okay.
Do you really think the 17th will be that? You're not in the finals and stuff yet.
But the 17th
It's
is
the
the
Oh, yeah.
Retirement.
recognition.
This retirement recognition,
recognition.
tell you Tuesday
So what week are you, you're not here,
I'm not here 19th, 20th, and 21st.
and then that weekend is Memorial Day.
There's no reason, like, the week before.
I'm okay with doing it off from a board meeting date as well, like
I can't do the 27th because that's the authority.
like I could do the 13th. I have to come here anyways at 4:00. But
Yeah,
facilities committee,
yeah.
May 13th, right?
no, yes, May 13th.
Okay. I could do May 13th.
I have no idea. It might be baseball night, but I can.
I might be able
figure it out.
to, I'm not sure.
There's a band concert
Depends on
that
work.
night, I
Nope.
think,
There's what?
A band concert.
4th through 6th band concert.
Oh, that'll be me.
Yeah, doesn't work then. We don't wanna,
What about the 14th?
14th?
There's no magic for it to have to be a Tuesday night outside of the schedule, you know, regularity, unless you guys have a conflict.
Any concerts?
Nothing that I see.
marching band will be out front, but other than that,
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah, there's a community schools advisory board meeting that night, but it's done at 5:30.
so we said like 6.
Where is that meeting? Here.
So is that 6 o'clock on the 14th?
Works for me.
You wanna do it here?
Yes.
Meeting here or down in the auditorium? I would meet here, just like,
It worked out okay last time,
it has worked out, if we have to, we can push back this way a little
we
bit
put
more.
more seats and stuff.
And
People always make themselves comfortable.
And the downside is just if they get overstacked and get around the corner, there's some,
yeah, if they get that way, it's
Yeah.
it's harder to hear, but I think we can make it work, and if last minute, if
I mean,
there's 100 people that
honestly,
show up, last minute, we can always,
we can always set everybody this way so that you're talking
At an angle.
at an angle, cause it's not, doesn't have to be set up like a board meeting.
we could be there and
And that way, if there's people, you can,
I mean, barring any major controversy, we probably,
Dave, do you have,
Banging
would
down
we
the doors.
stream it? Here's what
we have not streamed these yet.
we really wanna, well, that's what I'm asking, if there, is there just, I'm just trying to bring the logistic in for
The
Mr. White.
challenge of streaming is, that's
Sound.
very directional.
But also, one of the things people have said is they wouldn't speak if it was, like, they come to this so they can talk to us. They wouldn't talk if it was televised.
Really?
I don't know.
Is there a chance to talk to us, not to talk to everybody? So I kind of want to protect that too, if they take their time to come.
I feel like you'll get more people if you don't stream, cause
Yeah, cause they won't say how much
they
is
have
listed,
to be here to be
Yeah.
part of it.
Okay.
Okay.
Technology wise, it's still really challenging with what we
That's fine.
have.
That's fine.
That's why we didn't like it in the auditorium.
That's why it's a technical.
Okay, so we have that scheduled. Our primary topic will be merger and collaboration with other districts, and we will ask people to provide some input on if there's other topics they would like, and we'll figure out what we can include and what we push off to the next one.
sounds good.
Okay, we will skip student representative report and move on to superintendent reports.
All right, thank you. So, just, I know I talked about hiring last time, but, just a little update because it's a tough hiring season for us. So tonight you, approved Chloe, so we have one elementary ed position that we've hired. We also, have hired a long-term sub for next year at the junior senior high to backfill Jeannie Fitzsimons for her internship. We are currently interviewing for the second time for social work. So that's something that we've reposted, I think, 3 times now. So, but we do have interviews set for that. We have interviewed 3 times as well for Spanish and I have a final interview for that this week. We've interviewed twice already for high school special ed. That's the place I talked about last time where we're having the hardest time finding candidates. That continues to be a tricky area for us, so we're exploring some other options in that area to get people who might be able to like extend the certification in order to get that, or looking at allowable ways to temporarily put in place people who might have a different certification. We have 1 open elementary ed position that's we're starting interviewing this week. We have a great pool for that position. Our ag business CTE posting, we also are in the final round for that. So that will be one that I'm hoping will be filled by the end of this week. We have a posting that just went up for elementary special ed. So far, like it looks like we have a decent applicant pool started for that one. And then after tonight's board meeting, we'll also have 1 science opening that will go up. But this has been a very long and drawn out hiring season with multiple postings. I don't like to have this many openings like this late in the year, but we're trying to be proactive, especially like science. I've already reached out to some science contacts that I have in terms of like certification program people to at least let people know that like this is a posting that's gonna be coming and can they have their students like be on the lookout for it. But I'll just continue to update the board as we go because this is the toughest hiring we've had in a while.
Oof.
Does anybody have any questions about hiring before I move on? Okay. As Rob shared, we met on the 15th with the Williamson superintendent and board president and talked through, as Rob said, like shared positions and how those might work, and really thinking more about shifting towards more shared programming instead of thinking about shared staffing. So for example, like distance learning is something that both districts will be doing next year. We have some capacity to offer things like Spanish 2 that Williamson needs and doesn't have. They have some coursework that we don't have that our students could access, things like, you know, their tech programming like Project Lead the Way or some of the business offerings that we don't have. So those are the ways that we're currently looking. In addition, we talked about kind of expanding to have conversations with more of what I would call like some of the Western Wayne County districts to look at collaboration on kind of a bigger scale. So instead of just Marion, Williamson, like what are things that we can access programmatically in surrounding districts as well. So I'd say really probably we're looking the most at programming over staffing, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, the conversation about staffing is a little bit of a challenge because one of the discussions was around the food service position and how did we look at it versus how did they look at it? And they kind of looked at it more if they were helping Marion out because they had capacity in a person. So when they don't have as much capacity, they feel they can pull that person back. But that makes it hard for us to do long-term planning. The other challenge is that just fundamentally, we do so many things differently as districts. So part of the challenge that they had, again, with the food service position is the way Lauren does things is so much different than the way she did things. So it was learning an entire new system. And she is very efficient at the system in Williamson. She did not feel she was set up for success in the position here because she didn't know it. So when we start sharing positions, do we more start back at how do we do things and maybe make some changes to procedures and make our procedures more equal before we expect a person to step into both roles. And make it more of a partnership and try to set the person up for success better than this one position felt that they had. And so like I stressed, like if we do these shared positions, it's gotta be viewed more as a partnership between the districts, not one district's helping the other district out.
So it's April. Why is this the first time we're hearing that? We could have changed programs. Just saying.
There was conversation about that as well.
Okay.
But we felt at the end of our meeting that the programmatic side of things, the student offering side of things, was an easier way to start back into the sharing thing.
I think that's really valuable insight, from the food service director, point of view of having those boots on ground experience of being personnel shared between districts, especially since it's, as to my knowledge, not something we've done regularly
So like
before.
Warren did it with
Yeah.
Warren was,
3
But
or
it was
4
a
districts.
unique
yeah, Warren was Palmyra.
But it was-
situation,
It was different, it was a
Yeah.
different scenario
yeah.
in that,
So I think aligning, and like this came up in our conversations with the merger too, of like, what can we align and that makes collaboration an easier
cause one of the other things I
approach.
pointed out is as long as a district feels they're helping and it's not a partnership, that district always has the right to pull that person back when it's not in that district's best interest. And maybe there's a way that we can look at some of these shared positions and create them as BOCES positions, that we're hiring the service from BOCES
I thought that's what
versus.
we originally intended this to do.
Well, it
But
was
then it's
part of the
also-
conversations, it was, to the best of my knowledge, not a part of the conversation for this one position. Again, this is just one position that's a touchstone for what else we do.
So,
See, and I thought cause right after we came up with that, we met with Anita and we had said, ooh, can we do that with, I thought we went backwards and did that with that.
so we may have identified that kind of stuff, but it doesn't sound like that even bridged a conversation
There.
on the other side, in New Williamson.
There-
Just on the northern border. I guess my question is this, and I appreciate the time and effort, but I guess should the focus of our conversations be what position, let's come up with a list of positions that can be shared. That way we've got kind of a framework, you can't, does that make sense, Ellen? Like, if you say, okay, food service, this role, this role, this role, this role, here are things that we could share positions in, then you can start to create the job description, so to speak, for those positions that would accommodate both districts, as opposed to, well, they do it their way, so,
Mhm.
you know, I guess that's it, you can set an expectation and a guideline for a role.
That's,
Offer it to the current person that's there, but again, if they're not gonna, if that person doesn't want it, it's at least open.
it doesn't sound like at this point, Williamson would be interested in creating a new position that if they had a
So-
person in that position, they wouldn't want that person to have to compete for the new position. Which is why,
Well, they can keep them, let's talk to Sodas then,
Let's-
let's talk to Helmet, let's talk to Wayne, let's talk to. I don't wanna keep, my concern is that we have a window like this right now. We have gaps we need to fill, but we're looking here, we're focused here. And I know you just gave us this report on, we've gone through multiple rounds of recruiting to fill and get good candidates in. So do we need to expand that window? Do we need to start, just open this general conversation up about shared services, shared programming with more than just Williamson?
that was kind of the discussion that we had, was that's why with Williamson at this point, we kind of took the step back and say, let's look at where we can share programming. Because I think we need to take another more broad look at how do we approach shared positions. And that's how do we get to that point even, I can't really even tell you, but I'm just, like, this is what came out of that meeting. So I think if we wanna look at shared positions, we have to look at either approaching them with different districts or approaching them a different direction. Whether it's a BOCES employee that provides a service to our district through BOCES, or whether that's we both have, two districts have the same position, and I don't even wanna say it's us and Williamson, but maybe it's us and Sodas that have the same position open at the same time. And we try to set them up for success for how, like, and allow them the liberty to change how certain things are done, as long as it's done within what's allowed. I don't know. But it was just pretty obvious that at this point, we're not ready to share positions with them to a great deal of success.
Well, we get
So,
votes and share borders and proximity with a lot of other districts. I don't know, even though we don't touch a border, there's nothing that says we can't share services.
Yeah.
So
we don't have to share borders to share services or to have just
programs or anything, right?
Especially if
So-
we're gonna do it
but
virtually.
There are no borders with this thing.
Exactly.
so. Anything else?
No, I think we covered it.
Okay.
The next thing on here is the Marion Administrators Association contract. So we are asking the final copy, the final draft of that contract is up tonight for board approval. I know we've discussed the specifics of that in executive session. I would say probably the biggest changes or things I guess that I would highlight in there are just in terms of salary, a 4% increase for the first year, 3.5% increase for the next 3 years. And then the other probably biggest shift of specifics in there is just around healthcare, aligning the healthcare language to what's in the CSEA contract and what's in the NTA contract. Is there anything else you would highlight from that?
From the healthcare perspective, then there's just an option of potential buyout, retirement in lieu of healthcare.
Again, with that
What's it
focus on like trying to have some options for reducing the legacy costs for the district, which are large. Does anybody have questions about the contract?
I do not.
Can I get a motion to approve it?
I'll approve.
Can I get a
I'll
second?
motion.
I'll second.
All
I'll
in favor?
approve it.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, that passes. We'll move on to
Excitement.
school business administrator report.
Chomping at the bit, can't wait.
I'm too excited.
Write and talk at the same time, because the words I was writing were
I'm to the highlight.
wrong word.
So I'm gonna preface this. So we had a facilities committee meeting a couple weeks ago. And 2 weeks ago, and it was, the point of this is kind of just give big picture and to make sure that the board on a whole is on the same page, big picture, not to get too far into the details of what's actually going to be there. I don't know, there's $60+ million worth of work we could do, and we don't have a $60 million budget, so.
Need a jungle.
So it's kind of bring the board up to what we've talked about in the facilities committee and give a big picture and make sure the board as a whole is on the same page as far as what we're doing before we get too far down and we pay an architect to do work and then the board says, no, we don't agree with that. So,
Okay, good introduction. Alright, so what we're gonna look at tonight is, we're gonna look at the debt service in terms of what the current state is and what it could look like in the future. And then we'll also look at the next capital project in terms of a timeline and the scope. Okay, So, this was produced by, our fiscal financial advisor, Bernie Donegan. And the goal of our debt service and building aid, as all the board members know, is that we want the building aid and the debt service to offset one another. So in other words, if you look at column F, you want all these numbers to be as close to zero as possible. If you look at column C, that's our total debt service by year, versus column D, which is the building aid by year, you'll notice for 26, 27, they're virtually the same. In 2028, that's where we have some significant change. Now we have building aid outweighing our debt service by $200,000+, which tells us it's time to get a capital project in play. And so the purpose of balancing that debt service and building aid is to have a consistent budget from year to year to avoid peaks and valleys by having that imbalance between the two. And also, it maintains our facilities as we progress.
Not at $60 million a pop.
Not at $60 million a pop, correct, that would be correct. So this is just a nice graphic illustration that shows the same thing on as the previous page. 26 and 27, right, we're flat, zero, and then starting at 28, we have that $200,000+ difference. So debt service outlook. So this is just an example. This shows, and again, this was produced by Donegan. This shows an $11.7 million project utilizing $1 million of capital reserve. And you can see in column H that essentially you have a net zero between building aid and total debt service by incorporating that. This is showing three different scenarios. So scenario 1 was displayed on the previous slide. Scenario 2 is utilizing $2 million out of the capital reserve, which would get us to a $16 million capital project. Scenario 3 is using $3 million, which brings us to $20.4 million. So essentially, each additional $1 million that we take out of capital reserve is about a $4 to $4.5 million increase in the capital project. These are estimates based on these assumptions, that building aid will be at 83.3%, and that 95% of the capital project would be aidable. The BAN, or the bond anticipation note, which is the 1-year bridge for the serial bond, would be at a 5% interest rate. The serial bond would be at 6%, and with those assumptions and those numbers, we're looking at no additional tax impact, which is that net zero.
Anyone have any
Questions so far?
opinion on, I can tell you that getting our selection down to 20 million is gonna be hard for a project.
Rich, when does, so is it because in 2028 we drop a capital, we drop a bond from the last capital project, right? That's why that's going.
Yeah, the debt service falls
Right,
off.
the debt service falls off. Alright, so when in the cycle is the next debt service fall off?
You're getting ahead of me.
Sorry, okay, I just, cause again, I'm looking at this, you know.
So let's go to the next slide. Okay, so here's a timeline. So currently, and this is just not highlighting everything, but some of the key dates. So currently, the facilities committee is meeting. We've had 2 meetings, so 2025 is planning. December of 25, we'd like to go out to the community for the project vote. Assuming that it passes, then our architect would finalize the plans, submit it to SED for approval. Hopefully that'll be approved by January of 27. Assuming that's the timeline, we go out to bid, we get the contracts in place, and we start the project hopefully around May of 27. June of 27 would be the bond anticipation note, which is the 1-year bridge for the funding. And then June of 28 would be the serial bond. The fall of 28, the project would wrap up, and then the final cost report would be submitted by December of 28 to ensure that we got our first building aid payment in June of 29. Does that answer your question?
Not quite, but still,
Okay,
we're close.
we're close. So, scope, which is what we've been talking about with the facilities planning committee, and this is primarily determined by our last building conditions survey, along with input from the committee. So district-wide, we're looking at asphalt replacement, we're looking at either new HVAC or replacement of existing HVAC. And of course, with any capital project, there's asbestos abatement involved and electrical work, especially with new HVAC. At the building level, taking in mind the priorities of school safety, general building upkeep and maintenance, and student program improvements. At the elementary level, we're looking at carpeting and wall tile work, the auditorium, restrooms, exterior door replacements, basement water issue, which has been addressed in the previous projects, and most of it has been mitigated, but there is still some moisture and water issues that need to be addressed, and then the water line from the street. At the junior senior high, new roof is due. The septic system is ancient, it needs to be addressed. Phase 2 auditorium lights, so in the last project we did phase 1, so the plan was to do phase 2 during this upcoming capital project. The fire alarm system is outdated and you can no longer get parts for that, so that needs to be replaced. The building envelope, which is all the masonry and brickwork and the windows, there's some issues there that need to be addressed. And then, of course, with our new CTE initiative with the ag program, we need to renovate the ag or the tech rooms, that area, as well as looking at adding a outdoor building that would include classrooms and being able to house animals. The auditory sound system is also ancient and also needs to be updated. Any questions here?
I have one piece of information, well, we could talk about it after.
Okay,
Where are the dugouts?
big picture, remember the big picture comment?
I agree, but there's some things that lead up to one of the items on your elementary list that we should discuss, that's all.
Okay,
So the HVAC stuff that's been discussed, that's really your big spaces. This is to allow us to have kids in the building if we exceed the state maximum temperature. So it's gonna be your gymnasium, your auditorium, your that type of stuff.
Makes sense, it's also where we put them during Regents when it's 90-something degrees out, so.
So it just, and that's in both buildings, and so it's looking at having the large spaces in the elementary school and the large spaces in the high school. Air conditioned. The problem is the elementary school can't support it, so it's a new electrical service. That service is so old, so it has to be replaced, so it's kind of this snowball effect that we have.
okay,
Will you go back and just have that list up in case it's on people's minds?
this one?
Yes.
Question?
Like some of the stuff like the asphalt, how much of that actually gets done will be determined as the scope progresses.
I just thought, I thought in the last couple of things there was concerns about site work being copied or covered under certain parts of, I can't remember the
So-
details, so I apologize, but
It,
it seemed like when we were talking about tennis courts and that stuff, there was components that could be covered and couldn't be covered with aid and
Yeah.
I thought there was some site work
most
concerns.
site work is not covered by it.
That's what I thought.
So it's a balance of how much site work can you do with the building stuff to keep that percentage of aidable.
That's what
Work.
again, right,
Yeah.
Rob, that's exactly what I'm bringing up. I don't remember the details, I remember there's, but I get, if you're putting $1 million out of yours, we're taking that out of reserves to, you know,
So
augment a project that doesn't have, that work doesn't have to be aidable.
Probably 3 million.
Do
You
you
really
wanna
think
go
we're
back
getting-
to the,
You really think you're angling towards a $20 million project?
Yes.
Alright,
will you
so
go
the
back to the,
Is that because like
so,
what we need to get done, like there's nothing under that threshold that we can complete that would be useful?
It comes down to, there is so much that needs to be done. There's a lot of stuff, like our electrical service in the elementary school would have been considered past end of life, probably before I was on the school board.
Hmm.
Large
Things,
ticket items.
things were
Yeah.
not maintained as they should have been.
Yeah, so,
Projects were not done as
Listen,
they should have been.
it's
So
the
there's a
same-
lot of maintenance.
it's the
Yeah.
same old adage, Amber. Expenses have outpaced the revenue piece or the ability to do this. Things have come to the end of their useful life faster than you can pay for them. That's truly correct me if I'm wrong, but we see it everywhere. I see it in every town and village and everywhere that we get involved.
sure, I mean, even at home, you
Yeah,
know,
right.
yeah,
You just-
Yeah.
If it
so-
wasn't the thing that was making the noise, it didn't get
Right.
the attention.
Right, exactly.
yeah,
So-
so it feels like we're looking at like 15 options and we can pick like 2. That's kind of where or whatever, hypothetically speaking,
So
not,
financially, we can do the $20 million project. But to get the most amount that we can without impacting taxes.
$70 million
So-
Yeah.
aid would be very handy.
okay.
Do a car wash.
So the smaller,
How many times you go through?
the smaller one we looked at, the smaller dollar amount we started looking at initially, because we couldn't make it fill
What about
that gap.
First 3 items on each of the list for each
Well-
of the different, yeah.
Well, the thought was then if we did actually go through with a merger, you jump to 95% aid. So you push a bigger project off as late as we could. However, it's looking less likely that a merger is gonna happen in the next 3 or 4 years. So in my opinion, we might as well, it's cheapest to do it today. The more we can do today is cheaper than if we push stuff off, so if we can do the $20 million project, not increase taxes, to me, that would make sense, but again, that's why it's coming to you
Yeah, but
guys
that
is,
takes 3 million out of the capital. Right?
Out of the reserve.
Out
of the reserve.
But if we don't do it all, you still may take another 3 million out and only get 3 million for it. To put towards something if it breaks.
I follow you. But are you gonna be able to get 3 million back in there with the current pace and rate? You know what I'm saying, right? Like,
Go get that magic ball, will you? Crystal
again,
ball.
as expenses
Great reading.
continue to outpace revenues, are you gonna be able to put 3 million back in reserves in a timely fashion? Because the $20 million project isn't, and my question goes back to, when does so we have,
2030, I think is what you said at the.
that's what I was asking, yeah, Robin was a question I'm asking.
So,
what's
What's
the
next?
next
It's not
drop?
the one that it's not the current capital project, there's 2 iterations, right? There's one that's gonna drop off. There's one that's got about 10 more years on it or so, if I remember correctly. And then there's the current capital project we have in that scheme, right? So this one drops off in 28,
The next one's like 30,
30.
it's mid-30s, yeah.
Yeah, okay,
I don't
that's what I
know off
thought.
the top of my head what
And
it
again,
is.
I'm going by crappy old memory, right? So, alright.
and again, the things are only getting more expensive. Which is my push to do as much as we can today.
Yeah, but a project you do today in 10 years is a lot of it's obsolete anyway. Right? HVAC, efficiencies, those kind of things.
Efficiencies don't matter, maintenance does. Cause once it's installed, the state no longer cares how
I'm not
efficient
gonna vote
it
on
is.
it, so it doesn't matter. So-
Any other questions?
Is there an overwhelming opinion on what level of project we should go for?
I'd like to sit with it, to be honest.
I think
I
maybe
don't
they
wanna-
need some more information from
yeah.
our facilities,
Yeah, we
any
got,
committee meeting.
again, good information, kind of giving us a background, here's the state of the union, kind of stuff. You know, big picture,
What else do
I'm
we
leaning
need?
2 or 3, I don't see the point in doing one.
No,
Looks like it leaves way too much off.
we can do 3.
$11 million doesn't buy anything. Especially when you're talking
To throw
about
1
projects.
million more in and get almost 5 extra. Well, 4 extra, one of the million's ours.
Okay.
Just, I see Jason's point of, if you take it all,
Yeah,
cushion's
meaning-
gone.
What is our capital reserve anticipated to be at the end of funding of this year? You know that number off the top of your head?
It's currently at 3.3 million,
That's what I'm
plus
saying.
whatever we put in it this year. Which,
So if you dedicate 3 million in a year and a half, basically, like 2 years. If you're you still only got a couple cycles to put a couple $100,000 in a year.
But it is
right, you
earmarked
wouldn't
to go
touch it
to this.
until, if you follow
2020
the
is when you close
schedule,
it out, right?
well,
2020.
27, you would start.
When you do the band, you take it out when you do the band.
You generally start, before you get the band money, you need a little money.
Yeah,
So,
you're
yeah.
paying the architect, you're paying
Yeah.
like that.
But this money's sitting in an account to be used for this.
Correct,
It can't be used for anything else.
correct.
It's not.
Okay, well, that
General
changes it.
This
Yeah.
is capital reserves.
Yeah.
So this is money that we've set aside specifically for the purpose of
I
doing
get it.
these projects.
And we can't take it out and do anything else with it. It is set up
So leave it
for
like-
this.
$700,000
'cause I don't wanna lose it. That makes sense. I'm good, go 3. I talked it to in my head.
Good, should I go to the last slide?
Yeah.
Well done.
You should just put Jason. Go. You know, cause you always have questions. It's not a bad
This
thing.
is something that I'm into, that's
Yeah.
what I
He
do,
does it,
where I'm
he
at.
does it a lot.
I know, that's why I'm saying we need to just
This
say
is my
Jason.
jam.
So, glad you hear that.
Agreed.
Great,
Thanks, Rich.
thank you.
Yeah. But I still didn't see dugouts.
He's not
ignoring me.
he's not listening.
Right, yeah.
At this moment,
It's,
okay, at this point, I would really settle for porta potties up.
out of $20 million, I think we can slide.
It can just be chain link with a roof, I'm good with that. On stone, but in concrete.
I don't know if you got the donations, we got labor.
He said he'd donate his labor.
I didn't get the design from Creditario.
Okay, we'll move on to policy review. Anyone have any questions or comments on the second reading of the policies that are listed in the agenda?
I do not.
We're pretty,
Yes.
they were
You don't really have much.
not a lot of,
Straight out of the book.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love those policies.
There's no questions or comments, can I get a motion to approve them?
I'll move it.
Can I get a second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? That passes. On to consent agenda items. Anybody have any questions or comments on the consent agenda items?
Nope.
Not, can I get a motion to approve? Okay, get a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? That passes. We have one community member, do you have any comments?
No, you guys are doing awesome despite
Thanks.
what all the naysayers say.
Thank
What naysayer?
I'm not
We are
doing it
thriving.
I think you should sign up.
Can't.
Alright, so we will move on to a motion to go into.
I'll move it.
Wait, no,
For
you
the
can't just
specific
move.
For the specific purpose of what?
Discussing potential litigation.
Didn't say that.
It says that,
It says it in.
executive
Word
session for the specific purpose of discussing potential litigation.
Then I'll move it.
I
I'll
second.
I will say aye.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. We'll go into executive session.
Pretty sure there's